Today's grammar lesson is about commas. Commas are used to indicate a pause in a writing piece. So if you're reading something out loud and you're out of breath, chances are the writer forgot to include a comma to get you to pause. Here's an example on the right of a meme where there is an overuse of commas. However, it's designed that way to achieve a comedic effect. Rule number 1, we use commas to separate ideas in a sentence. So I'm going to read this sentence here. I like cooking my family and my pets. That makes me sound like a mean person. However, if I wrote that sentence using commas and it was a list, then it'd be separate ideas. So it would sound like this. I like cooking, my family, and my pets. You might still need to add a word in there to be sure that hanging out with your family is a different idea. However, it doesn't sound like you like to cook those things anymore. Now, the Oxford comma is the comma that we use before the and, which connects the final idea in the sentence. Some people say use it, some people say don't. Here's the difference between the two. If you use the Oxford comma, the sentence will sound like this. I had eggs, toast, and orange juice. So those items in the list are separate ideas. If you don't use that comma, your sentence will sound like this. I had eggs, toast, and orange juice. So it sounds like you like to put orange juice on your toast. Rule number 2, commas connect two independent clauses or two ideas that could be standalone sentences. Here's an example of what we call a comma splice, and this is where you may lose marks for grammar. Ice cream is very tasty. I like it. So with the way that's written, they should still be two separate sentences. You need a conjoining word like and. So ice cream is very tasty, comma, and I like it. So that tells me that ice cream is very tasty is the first idea of your sentence, but you want to pair it up with a second idea, which is the fact that you like it, because everybody could find it tasty, but it's just not your thing. Commas isolate the introduction in a sentence. So here's a sentence that is written incorrectly. First, we go to the store. Now, the reason why that's written incorrectly is because if you were walking me through our plan for the day and there was another sentence coming up that said something like, second, we go to the hockey game. Well, that means that the word first is its own independent idea in the sentence because you're telling me when we're going to the store, we're going there first. The fact that we're going to the store is where we're going, and that's a separate idea. So the proper way to write that would be first, comma, we go to the store. Now here's another sentence that has Batman concerned. So right now I have this typed as, let's cut and paste kids. Obviously, Batman's not really happy with that type of activity. Instead, I need to put a comma in there so it sounds like this. Let's cut and paste, kids. So now Batman might think we're going to a children's party or we are organizing craft time. Rule 4, commas can be used instead of brackets. So brackets or parentheses can add extra information to a sentence. However, it's not part of the main idea, so it has to be separated. So in this sentence, Jason, comma, who is Sally's brother, comma, will be late for school. The fact that Jason is Sally's brother is a separate idea. The main idea in the sentence is the fact that Jason will be late for school. So you need to put commas there. Another example could be Paris, comma, a city in France, comma, is a very romantic location to visit. So you're focusing on the fact of what type of location Paris is for visiting, but the fact that it's in France is a separate idea in that sentence. Rule number 5, using commas with paired adjectives. You can either use a comma or a conjunction, but they'll just sound different. And here's an example. It was a dark and stormy night. You can use the word and while you're reading it, you can stretch it out a little bit as you're enunciating it to make it sound like a campfire story. If I want it to sound like I was fed up with a particular day, I might say something like this. We had a hot, dry summer. So you're pairing those adjectives with a comma. So it's a brief pause. And that pause happens very quickly so that you're reiterating to the reader that you were fed up with summer because it was hot and dry. Use commas to avoid confusion. This is very similar to the Batman example. However, I'm going to give you another example just to be sure. So in this first sentence, it sounds like this. Let's eat Grandpa. Well, I'm sure we're not going to be ungrateful grandkids in this situation. What we mean to say is, let's eat, Grandpa. So when you put that comma in, it's an invitation for Grandpa to join you for dinner, rather than have Grandpa be what's served for dinner, which saves his life. Commas can be used to show contrast. For example, here's a quote from Matt McConaughey. Life is a series of commas, not periods. So it's a pause. Another example could be from Star Trek. There's always a doctor who says something like, I'm a doctor, not an engineer. So it's a very quick pause to join those ideas to show a contrast. And that's it for today's lesson.